All right, what's good, homies? We're gonna try this thing again, man, and see how we can make it happen. I think we should be good. Let's see what we can do. Y'all put a one in the chat if y'all can hear me loud and clear this time, man. Put a one in the chat if y'all can hear me loud and clear. Now, because we had a little bit of technical difficulties, man, I'm going to leave this thing open chat if y'all let me. Y'all gotta let me leave it open chat. If y'all don't let me leave it open chat, then it ain't gonna be open chat. You know what I'm saying? So let's get the people, man, about 4 minutes to get in here, man. Vlado, good to see you back in the joint, man. I know a few people that came on since I've been messing with this thing. Sean Vire, what up? Michael, what up? Will Bravo, what up, Willie? Chris, what up, man? SFDC, what's good? What's good? What's good? All right, we back in the joint. Sean Vire, Vlado, Chris, Archer Engineer, what's up, man? When you like to know, what up? What up? The homie sliding through, man. So let's listen, man. We're gonna try to leave this thing open chat, man. But listen, too much trolling or hating, man. You know, just foolishness, man. Stupid stuff, man. Come up in here. You know, we might have to go ahead and shut this thing back down, man. Hopefully, we don't have to do that. Hopefully, those suckers got somewhere else to be right now. DTS, Weeze, Danes Honey, good to see you back, Shotty. New Jordan Era, appreciate the 5-bone, homie. Now, first off, let me start by saying this. This ain't no diss to nobody. This is something that we always talk about. There's a side that say, though they're low in number, that say marriage is a good thing. We have to stop acting like marriage ain't good. Then there's the other side, the majority, that says, nah, bro, everything points to the fact that marriage is something that if you're going to do it, boy, you better be aware that you're taking one heck of a chance with not just your present, but your future. And that's what we're going to talk about. And what better two scenarios or better two angles to look at it than from a man who is recently married and a man who has a lot more experience in life, has lived that life, been married, gone through a divorce, and has bounced back and recreated a better life for himself, a la Michael Jordan. So that's what we're going to do, man. We're going to take a look at that. Let's give the people a couple of more minutes to get in here, man. I appreciate y'all being patient. Again, we're going to try to leave this track open. I mean, we're going to try to leave this joint open chat just because of the mix up on my end or whatever happened. You know what I'm saying? Technical difficulties, as we call them. And that's what we're going to chop it up out, man. No hating in here, man. You know what I'm saying? No, we ain't going to be down talking no other content creators. We ain't going to be doing none of that. We ain't going to be in here doing no self-promotion either. This ain't the realm for that. So I know y'all know the Roommates, and y'all know Hafiz from the Roommates, man. He recently got married, and so he started a separate channel, just his own channel. And he seemed to be a pretty good dude, man. Pretty straight up, just an L7 dude, man. You know what I'm saying? No history in the streets, or no prison time or nothing like that, or obviously no marital history or anything like that, man. Just seemed to be a good young dude, man. So when somebody sent me this video, I was like, okay, this is different. Because nobody's ever sent me in a Roommates content, man. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to be honest, unless they were interviewing, you know what I'm saying, one of the guys I support, like when Steph was on, I watched that episode. When AMS was on, I watched that episode. I can't even say I watched the guy's content because I don't. But I know them because they make the round, pretty popular content creators, respected content creators. So they sent it to me, and as I was listening, as soon as it started off, well, you can look at the title and tell. And if I don't remember, somebody remind me in the comments, or Now, don't worry about it. Shout out, remind me. Just that I'll link his video in the description, because what I did, I took the audio and we're gonna listen to the audio, but I'll link his video so y'all can go check it out, man. And he seems pretty passionate about what he's saying, and what he's saying is that it's wrong to tell men to look at the divorce statistics. It's wrong to tell men to look at what's going on around them just from the negative perspective and look at it in totality. Look how many men are successful at marriage. Look how many men aren't successful at marriage. Make your judgment based on that. And he said that most guys who talk about marriage online always talk about the negative aspects of it. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not saying he was talking about CGA, but that's the first thing popped in my mind, because CGA has experience in what not to do when it comes to marriage. All the pitfalls. He could tell you that from experience. And so I said, you know what? Let me juxtapose these two mindsets against one another. Because what we want to know is that both sides, if you're telling us about statistics, then tell us about statistics. Now, one thing I will say, you're going to hear, because I did listen to it already, you're going to hear that Hafiz was doing the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Taking those statistics and pushing them as far right as he could to support his outlook. But here's the problem with pushing statistics far left and right. When you look at the numbers, see, some people are just going to look at the numbers. And let me tell you something you ain't going to never see. You ain't going to never see numbers that say something has a 50% failure rate when it really only has a 10% failure rate. The numbers are never going to be skewed that much. Although the numbers will be skewed, you have to consider certain things. There are certain considerations. We're going to take a deep dive on this one, man. I got some screens that I'm going to pull up, man. We're going to take a deep dive on it. So I say this to y'all. If you're going to do something like that, then it had better make a lot of sense. And you had better have the woman who fits perfectly into your life. The problem with that is 9 times out of 10, you're not going to find that. But if you do, what do I tell you men all the time? Give a woman what she earns. I'm not going to tell you to legally marry a woman in the United States. Because one thing we'll talk about is the risk. You take risk in everything, in business and everything. Yes, you do. But marriage is the one space where the risks are so high because somebody else has 50% control of what happens. When you start a business, unless you got an equal business partner, they don't have 50% control. And even if you do have an equal business partner, they have as much to lose as you do. Marriage is the only situation you go into where the woman has nothing to lose. She has nothing to lose. And when you think about that, that takes away most positivity you can have on the outlook. It just doesn't make sense to do something that's going to leave you in a situation like that. Let me check something right quick, man. Make sure I'm in the right frame rate. Yeah, we good. We're in the right frame rate. All right. Now, let's take a dive into this one, man. Before we pull up any stats or anything, we're gonna. Well, I'm going to read something to you guys. I didn't pull this one up. I just didn't really feel like it. As I was sitting here waiting for the show to restart, I found this one on my phone. Okay, y'all listen to this. Before 1914, and this is from the UK Parliament, which is a governmental branch of, it's kind of like Congress in the United States. Before 1914, divorce was rare. It was considered a scandal confined by expense to the rich and by legal restrictions requiring proof of adultery or violence to the truly desperate. In the first decade of the 20th century, there was just one divorce for every 450 marriages. Now, I want y'all to remember that. One divorce for every 450 marriages. Now, both world wars caused a spike in divorces, but it was not until the Divorce Reform Act of 1969 that they reached the level we are familiar with today. Listen, not the level that it used to be, the level we are familiar with today. Now, we're going to talk about these statistics. Divorce has not decreased that much. You got to think about this. When a law came through and said it's a whole lot easier to divorce if you're not happy, of course the numbers are going to jump, but they haven't gone down that much. They haven't returned to pre-law, to pre-divorce reform act levels. So the legislation marked an important shift, not merely because it added further grounds for divorce on the basis of 2 years separation with the other party's consent or 5 years without, but because it removed the concept of matrimonial offenses and hence the idea of divorce as a remedy for the innocent against the guilty. These liberalizations of divorce law, combined with changing attitudes and expectations toward marriage and the great economic independence of women. Now let's talk about that. The great economic independence of women is one of the great causes of that divorce. That's when women started to trigger the divorces. They still trigger them today. 80% of divorces are filed by women, the same as it was back then. Now, let's keep going. All of these things contributed to the rise in the number of divorces from 50,000 per year in 1971 to 150,000 in 1981. More recently, the number of divorces has fallen steadily, although this may be more to do with the fact that fewer people are getting married in the first place. Of course, the divorce rates are going to fall if the marriage rates are falling. Fewer people married, fewer divorces. Now, it's more evidence of that rather than a trend toward matrimonial bliss. Today, there are just 2 marriages for every divorce each year. And for some groups, the statistics are even worse. So we're gonna take a listen to Hafiz right quick, man. It's pretty lengthy, so we'll get into it, man. We'll break it down, man. But it's gonna be good. I promise y'all, man. It's gonna be worth it. Sid Thompson, man. Appreciate the dub. Sid, appreciate the dub, bro. Jason McPherson, appreciate the 5-bone Canuck Buck. Peace and blessing, Doc. Keep blessing us with this game. I would listen to a podcast with you and CGA a few years ago. It forced me to get on my grind. Salute, bro. Salute. Yeah, I remember that one, man. It was a good one. New Jordan Era, appreciate the 5-bone, bro. Salute to you. I don't think I got no mod in here, man. Rational Logic, appreciate the dime. Dropping my tuition. Bless up, Alpha and salute BOA. Salute to you, bro. All right, so here what I'm gonna have to do, man. Since I don't have y'all give me a quick second, man. Since I don't have I'm gonna have to do something right quick, man. I hate to do it since I don't have a moderator in here right now. I got to do it, man. Y'all give me a quick minute. Got to do it. Got to have a mod in here, man. Boy, be coming through on these things doing some wild stuff, man. Shit, my partner, man, had his channel. He got a flag on his channel, man, because of somebody coming through on the live stream doing some foolishness, man. So we're gonna change that on up. All right, man. So here we go. Okay. Yeah, Flem's here, but he's driving, man. So we ain't gonna. You just drive, Flem. You keep doing your thing, man. So had to go to members only, man. So all right, man. So let's do this. Let me bring this joint up in here, man. Yo, this is gonna be wild. I'm telling y'all, man. Y'all gonna enjoy this. All right, here we go. Let's get to it.
This is Hafiz. And before we begin today's conversation, I would like to share with you the fundamental idea behind today's message. In everything you do in life, there will be risk. From driving a car, to boarding a plane, to starting a business, and even getting married. There's absolutely nothing that you do in this life where there is zero risk. Now, with that information, you can do one of two things. You can live your life to eliminate all risks, or you can live your life to alleviate the risk. And let me explain using a random statistic. According to the Bureau of Labor, 45% of businesses fail within the first 5 years of starting. So with that information, you can do one of two things. On one end, you can eliminate all risk. And how do you do that? Just start a business. Because if you don't start a business, guess what can never happen? A business can never fail. Problem solved.
Now, my thing with comparing business to relationships, guys who cold approach women, they compare cold approaching women to business as well. You got to go get the opportunity in business. When you walk up to somebody in a business and try to sell something, then you got to cold approach them. They try to compare approaching women to sales. Here's another example of a man comparing business to a woman. The thing about business, a successful business will always give you more reward than a successful marriage. Let's just be realistic. If you start a business from the ground up and it becomes successful the way you want it to, you are going to get more benefit from that business than you get from a marriage. I don't care how successful the marriage is, unless the marriage helps the business boom. You understand what I'm saying? But in this society, we tell men to get your stuff together. Already have your life built before you marry a woman, before you get a woman. I say the same thing. Before you worry about women, get everything else together. And Hafiz is going to say the same thing. Every man says it. Whether you're going to have a woman or not, the goal is, as a man, to get your stuff together. Become the most alpha version of yourself. The strongest, leanest, meanest, cleanest, most paid, most spiritually sound, most mentally stable version of yourself. We all say that. Hafiz is going to say it as well. But there is no comparison when you compare the risk in business to the risk in marriage, because in business, if you start a business, even with a 50-50 business partner, if the business goes flat, everybody loses. If the business don't work, you ain't got to turn around and then pay your business partner the money they invested in the business. Or better yet, the money you invested in the business, you got to pay it to them. There is no comparison between marriage and business, because the marriage laws in this society dictate that 9 times out of 10, a man is going to be left holding the bag, only to give that bag over to said divorced wife. Let's finish.
But on the other end, you can alleviate the risk. And how do you alleviate risk? You still start a business, but on the flip side, what you will also do is get mentors support you along the way. What you will also do is get a great business partner to come alongside you on your journey. What you will also do is get all the tools and resources and do your due diligence and research to learn about the ins and outs of that particular field that you desire to be a part of.
Again, when you're thinking about business, you can learn more and more and more and more to guarantee that your business is going to be a success. Not guarantee 100%, but increase the likelihood and probability that your business is going to be success. In marriage, you can't do that because you have to rely on what the woman is going to do. So this comparison from business to marriage is a dumb comparison. Anybody who does it is just gaslighting, because there is no comparing business and the probable outcomes to the probable and possible outcomes of legal marriage in the United States of America in 2022 and beyond. Let me catch these super chats, man, before they get away from me, man. Got a few up here. And the screen rolling pretty fast. Real name Serge. Appreciate the dub, man. Appreciate the game. G, salute to you, Serge. Appreciate you coming through, man. Ricky Webb. Appreciate the 5 bone, man. Don't know if you got my other donation BOA, so I'll donate again. Props due. Yeah, I got it, man. Y'all just couldn't hear me talking. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know y'all couldn't hear me, man. Sean Vire. Appreciate the 50 bone, man. Sponsorship of the show, man. Salute to Sean Vire. Appreciate your work, Doc. Appreciate the support, brother. Appreciate it. Now, let's jump back into this thing, man.
What you can also do is shadow somebody who's in that field, or even work for a great company in the field in which your business that you want to start is going to be in.
Again, you can't do that with marriage. You can't go live with America unless it's your parents. But your parents, they're different. Your parents could be having issues you don't even know about when you're a kid. With your parents, it's different. You can't just shadow a married man and see how he interacts with his wife and see how his wife interacts with him. You can't compare business to relationships. So men, please stop doing it. It makes no sense.
Eliminating risk, alleviating risk. Never for a second am I communicating that there are zero risks to marriage. And one of my biggest frustrations today is that so many people online share so much exaggerated data and so much unhealthy messages about marriage and divorce. And these unhealthy messages are to turn away a generation of young men who desire marriage and family. Because in my opinion, what we don't need in a society is more single moms, and we definitely don't need more young males being raised without their fathers, especially in the Black communities.
Now listen, here's the problem with that. Let's pull up a statistic right quick. Here's the problem with that analogy. Let's look at this right here. Now, I don't know if y'all can see this, man. I'm gonna try to share this screen. Let me share this screen with y'all right quick, man. Because we got to look at this. We got to look at this screen, man. Now, let's look at this screen. Now, here's what I want y'all to do. Marriage to divorce ratio by race and ethnicity. Now, he's talking about Black men and Black women. This is in 2018. He's going to talk about 2022, but let me go ahead. There are no marriage and divorce statistics for 2022. It's March. We're still in the first quarter. You can't give me statistics for a year in the first quarter. You can only give me statistics for 2021 and the years before that. But I like to stick to reputable sources, mostly college professors who do research, man. I like to look at college research, university research. So this is from Bowling Green State University. Let's go. Okay, divorce rate by ethnicity. Now, these statistics say the ratio for Black marriage, and these are for women. Women's marriage, y'all see this. I'm gonna have to change my cursor to women's marriage to divorce ratio and marriage and divorce rate by ethnicity 2018. Now, when you look down here and you see Black women, their marriage ratio is 1.6, meaning that there's 1.6 marriages for every divorce. You look at every other group down here with white women, 2.1 marriages for every divorce. Hispanic women, 2.5 marriages for every divorce. And everyone else, which mostly includes Asian Americans, when you look at that, 3 marriages for every divorce. When you look over here, Black women, 1.6 marriages for every divorce. Now, when you look at all these other groups, the marriage rate is higher than the divorce rate. For white women, the divorce rate is 15.1%. And the marriage rate is 32%. For Hispanic women, the divorce rate is 18.5%. The marriage rate is 33.2%. For all others, including mostly Asian Americans, the divorce rate is only 12.4%, while the marriage rate is 36.6%. When you look at this statistic, the divorce rate for Black women is almost double the marriage rate. What does that say? That says that Black women are divorcing their husbands at twice the clip of almost everyone else, twice the clip of white women, twice the clip plus some over others, and almost twice the clip over Hispanic women. They will divorce you. So what happens with all of those children who are from those divorce homes? They still end up growing up in a home without their father. They still end up being in a home with a single mom. They still end up being in a situation where they don't have a father there to raise them the way that they should on a daily basis. Who loses in this situation? The man loses the most. He loses his children. He loses his finances. He loses his stability. And he's the only one who has to go back and rebuild his life. And he's possibly not even in a situation, if he wants to marry again, he's not in a financial situation to even be able to have a great wife the second time, if he's fool enough to do it the second time. You see what I'm saying? When you think about what guys say, you have to make sure that you're not listening to some gaslighting being done because somebody just wants to support their perspective on something. Now let's get back into this thing, man. Let's take a dive back into this. So when you think about these things, man, you have to understand that just because there's a statistic out there and just because a thought or idea is a good thought or idea, that doesn't mean, man, that is going to be, the effective thing.
What we need is men and women coming together, creating healthy families, and leaving a legacy of greatness for generations to come. So let me explain to you why I believe most conversations about marriage and divorce today are extremely deceptive at the worst or extremely misguided at the least. And the first reason is that 50% of marriages today don't end in divorce, especially first marriages. If you were to go online and
Okay,
do your research and look up, do 50% of marriages in 2022 end in divorce, you will not find a single respectful article or reference resource that's going to communicate that idea.
Now, see, that's gaslighting. It's March. It's the beginning of March in 2022. I think this video he did is 3 weeks old. So this thing was done around Valentine's Day. So what we're talking about is 1.5 months, 6 weeks into the year. We're going to talk about statistics aren't available for 2022. Of course they aren't. Now, he's going to say some things in here that I'm going to agree with. So this isn't an attack on Hafiz, but the same way he says other men are gaslighting with their statistics, that's exactly what he's doing right now. We're not talking about the statistics of 2022. There are no statistics for 2022. There are no marriage statistics for 2022. There are no divorce statistics for 2022 because you know that people generally get married in the spring and the summer. We haven't gotten to the spring and summer yet. So a lot of weddings are planned that haven't taken place. A lot of divorces are planned that haven't taken place. We got to talk about 2022 and 2023. And that's just a fact. There are no statistics for anything for 2022. There are no high school graduation statistics because high school graduation doesn't happen until May. There are no statistics for anything for 2022. There are only projections. Now, let's address something else. The marriage rate for first marriages is 41%. That's almost 50. So you see, when you gaslight and say, okay, the marriage is not 50%. Yes, it is for first marriages. It's 41%. For second marriages, it goes up to 73%. So what we have to understand, matter of fact, I ain't got to just talk about it, man. We can pull up some stats on that. We're going to pull up some stats on that. Y'all hold up. We're going to pull up some on that right now. We ain't playing no game, man. We came equipped. We ready. We ready, homies. I ain't going to lie to y'all. We ready. Let me make sure, man, I can pull the right thing up right quick. Okay, I think this is it right here. Let's see. I think this is it. All right, y'all hold up, man. Let me make sure I got that thing. Y'all know, I know I'm going to be bringing all these damn stats in here like this, man. This ain't the one. I'm all over the place, man. Y'all bear with me, man. Y'all got to bear with me, man. Y'all know y'all got to bear with me. I got a bunch of stats pulled up, man. Let me Okay, here we go. This is it right here, man. Let's get to it. I'm going to pull it up right now, man. My bad, homies. My bad. Here we go right here. Let's take a look at this. All right. Now, when you look at this, let me make sure y'all can see this, man. Make sure y'all can see this. It should be pretty good. All right, let's make sure y'all can see this. All right. Now, here's what we're talking about, man. The divorce rate. Now, this divorce rate by state 2022. Of course, this can only track when you look down into the article. They're using statistics from 2019 because they don't do this like every year on the year. You got to think about it. It takes time to compile the divorce and marriage statistics from the previous year. So it's saying by state 2022. And I also tell you this, they include a lot of just how many divorced people are in the state. You got to understand how they skew these things. Now let's look at this right here in the first paragraph. Marriage and divorce are both common experiences for adults, although both can be challenging. About 90% of people in Western cultures marry by age 50. In the United States, about 50% of married couples divorce, the sixth highest divorce rate in the world. Subsequent marriages have an even higher divorce rate. 60% of second marriage end in divorce, and 73% of all third marriages end in divorce. So when you think about it, that's not a crazy statistic. It's not a crazy statistic. That is a very real statistic. Now, of course, you have to consider other things when you look at statistic, but man, it ain't gonna change that much. You know what I'm saying? It's not gonna change that much. Let's look right here. The average age for couples going through their first divorce is 30 years. Couples are more or less likely to get divorced based on several factors. Couples married between the ages of 20 and 25 are 60% likely to get a divorce. Those who wait until they are older than 25 to get married are 24% less likely to get divorced, which means they are still 36% likely to get a divorce. Now, you got to think about this. When you don't break it down and you view it in totality, you got to look at how low the divorce rate is for Hispanics, for Asians, for white women. They group it all in, and so it balances out. But all told, 36% is still a hell of a high divorce rate for just one group. You look at the young couples, man, that's a crazy divorce rate. Now, those with strong religious belief are 14% less likely to get divorced, which means they're 44%, 46% less likely to get it. 40% divorce rate is high, man. It's high. According to a U.S. Census Bureau survey, the top 3 reasons for divorce are incompatibility, infidelity, and money issues. What's the one thing you hear women say in marriage? They're not happy anymore. They're not happy anymore. They're not fulfilled anymore. They need some spice in their life, like something isn't right. The majority of adult toys are sold to married women. So when you and let's take a look. You take a look at somewhere like let's take a look at somewhere like Nevada. Nevada has a very high divorce rate. Nevada has the 3rd highest divorce rate. Nevada has a 10.2% divorce rate. But when you think about it, look how many people go to Nevada and get married. Like, people just go to Nevada to get married. Wherever you get married at, like, your divorce, you got to think about it. Your marriage counts there. Your divorce counts there. When you think about it, you don't even have to think about anything when you go get married in Vegas. And the divorce in Nevada can be finalized in as quickly as 10 days. So you have to take into consideration a lot of things before you just start saying that these numbers don't tell the truth. You can't just come out and say, hey, stop listening to those numbers. They don't tell the truth. No, they tell a half truth. No, they don't tell a half truth. These numbers tell the damn truth. They tell the truth about what men are dealing with out here, man. That's just the reality of it. Ain't that can be done about it. These numbers tell the truth about what men can face out here in the world. Weez Bowski, appreciate the dub, bro. Appreciate the dub. David with a Y, Facts 100. Appreciate the 5 bones, man. Let's get back into this thing, man.
What you will find is that almost everyone is sharing how the divorce rate has been rapidly decreasing within the past 50 years. And what you'll also learn is that when most people quote that 50% divorce statistic, what they're quoting is how the divorce projections were taking place in the 1970s due to the skyrocketing divorce rate, which was caused by the technological shock that was a result of no-fault divorce.
Now, we already covered that. The divorce rate in 1970 shot up. It was much higher. That's not where the 50% divorce rate came from. That's the first thing we talked about in this show. That is not where the 50% divorce rate came from. The divorce rate was higher then. You got to think about it, man. You know what? Matter of fact, let's reopen that can of worms. I hate to reopen this can of worms, but let's reopen this can of worms. Because my thing is, let's not sit and act like men who have real concerns about marriage shouldn't have those concerns. Let's not act like that. We're being disingenuous if that's what we're going to do. Oh, you know what? I was reading that off here, man. Hold up. I was reading that off the thing from the Parliament, the UK Parliament. All right, so let's jump back into that. Here's the thing. When that Reform Act came through, you got to think about this. The rise in divorces went from 50,000 per year in 1971 to 150,000 a decade later. Man, that ain't no 50% divorce rate. That ain't no 50% divorce rate. That divorce rate went crazy. So the 50% divorce rate is for today, and the 80% of divorces filed by women is for today. We're not, man, listen, nobody's just running around throwing these things in, man, saying this. And I'll tell you something else, man. Everybody starts off happy about their marriage. You think Greg didn't start off happy about his marriage? You think Greg didn't go in saying this is going to be the best thing and have these visions of how family was going to be and how everything was going to work out and how him and his old lady were going to grow old together? You think Kanye West didn't go into that marriage with Kim Kardashian? Look how he's trying to win her back over now. And she done took West off her name online, on social media and everything. He's still trying to win her back because in a man's mind, he really does it forever. The woman doesn't do it forever. Now, I will tell you this. I'm not going to sit and tell you that there are no men who are married who are cool with it. My engineer, the guy who makes me sound so amazing on these tracks, man. He's been married. I think he's been married for 17 years. I think he's been married for 17 years. I asked him the last time I was in the studio. I said, man, let me ask you something, man. If you had to do it again, would you do it? I asked many men this, and I'm going to be honest with you. He's the only man I've ever talked to who said yeah. And see, you got to think about this. Whereas Hafiz probably doesn't talk to a lot of men about this, just about the marriage they've already been in. See, he's more talking to young men who haven't been married. I talk to men who are married and have been married. And I've talked to over 5,000 men who are married or have been married. And my engineer is the only one who has ever told me he would do it again. He's the only one who ever told me that. And other men I know who got married and divorced and did it again, they changed the way they viewed the woman. So they went from having this beautiful woman, this successful woman, to having a woman who was just average looking and didn't have a lot going on in life. A woman who would appreciate the upgrade in life. You understand what I'm saying? Not a woman who had the mindset that she was going to do her own thing. If the independent mindset of women caused the divorce rate to go higher back in the day, why would we think these women today who have an even more independent mindset wouldn't think the same thing? See, I want to hear a man talk after year 1, year 2, when the intimacy ain't the same no more, when the novelty of having somebody around you every day, when the novelty wears off. When we listen to Greg, we're talking to a man who has lived that life. He was in the same space Hafiz is in now. Oh, man, I married my woman. You ever seen a man frowning on his wedding day? No. These guys be having tears coming down the aisle when their wife come down the aisle, man. When their future bride come down the aisle, man, they be having tears in their eye. It's a feel-good day for them, man. But when it ends, none of that matters. None of that matters. So you can't be a man who's just gotten married trying to tell me it's a wonderful thing. You don't know if it's a wonderful thing yet. You know getting married is a wonderful thing. It's wonderful for everybody. Great thing, great. I mean, it's wonderful. And I'm not saying that Hafiz's marriage won't last. It may. He could possibly be one of the ones because the divorce rate isn't 100%. 50% is half. Now, I imagine there are probably another 10 or 15% of men who just ain't worried about taking, they just hope the woman don't leave. And then there's a point where the woman is too old to move on and so she's just going to hold what she got. But when you think about it, 50% is a high enough divorce rate for men to really, really consider whether they ought to do it or not. And here's the thing. There's a man out here who's married, that's been married for 20 years, who will support everything Hafiz is saying. But that man is in a position to say it. Hafiz has no marriage experience to be able to say this. Of course, you want to be able to, there are certain ideas you have to have before you make a move. You have to view it from a positive perspective. He'd be crazy if he didn't view marriage from a positive perspective. Then come out and say, hey, I just got married. Of course he's going to view it from a positive perspective. But there aren't enough statistics. Since he's using statistics, there aren't enough statistics to support the success of marriage. We know how men feel after divorce. There's never any talk about how men feel when they're married. But I'm telling you, I have spoken to over 5,000 men who are married or have been married, and only one has told me, yes, man, I'm straight. I would do it again, man. I'm straight. Only one. Now, that's a very small percentage of men, but that's a lot of men to ask one question and only get one yes. Now, let's finish, man. Let's get back into this.
You see, my biggest thing is I don't want anyone watching this video and saying, oh, because Hafiz said it, it's true. No, do your research yourself. I am not God. I am not a prophet. I'm just a man who likes to read books and share my opinions. So my goal is that everybody uses their own mind and pray about every single thing that I say and accept what is true and reject what is false. But what happens so often today is so many men go to redpillfacts.org and they use all that information like it's gospel truth, and they don't navigate, research, and investigate to see what is really going on in today's world.
Now see, you know what? Now that's just kind of a man trying to distance himself from the red pill or whatever. Me, I don't have a dog in the race of red pill. I tell you all the time, I'm not a red pill content creator. This is the alpha sphere. Some guys still say BOA is a manosphere guy. I'm not finna try to argue that. But when I first came online, I declared this space the alpha sphere. From the time I had 2 subscribers, this was the alpha sphere. It's always been that. So I don't align myself with no pill or no none of that. But it's obvious when a man is trying to detach himself from the red pill. Because let's be honest, when you listen to guys talk, they have stats. They bring stats, they bring information, just like BOA is doing today. I knew I couldn't come in here and talk about this. Now, between the 3 of us, between me, Greg, and Hafiz is the only one talking about marriage without statistical data to show. So you can say what you want to say. Show it to me on paper from a reputable source. That's why I always use university studies. I always use university research. And if you see me pull up a book, it's going to be written by a professor. I always use university research because those guys have access to every single piece of literature they could ever need. And so that's why I always go that route. Now, I'll say this. There is a possibility that you could have a woman and be in a relationship with her, be in a marriage, but not a legal marriage. My problem is it's dumb to promote legal marriage. It doesn't make sense to promote legal marriage. The ramifications of an unhappy woman are just not worth it. It's not worth it, man. You can do it if you want to, but in the end, there is no man who has divorced. Now, we already pulled up the statistic. If you marry a black woman, she is more likely to divorce you than any other woman. That's the only group of women whose divorce rate is higher than their marriage rate. Doubles their marriage rate. So let's be realistic. How do you double your marriage rate? How do you not really be getting married, but then be getting divorced more than everybody else? How do you marry less than everybody else and divorce more than everyone else? See, you have to view these things from the perspective of a realistic man who is viewing it from logic. Here's a newlywed man who's viewing it with a bunch of emotion. He loves his wife. He's got his new wife. The family loves her. It's the perfect scenario if you view it from an emotional perspective. But every man starts this way. There aren't many married men who didn't fall in love with the woman that they married before they married her. A woman is the only one who will marry a man she doesn't love or not in love with. A man, almost all men feel this same way when they fall into a scenario. Look at the things that Russell Wilson does when he's with Sierra. I got a great piece of content about him coming up tomorrow. A great piece of content that just shows if you fall emotionally head over heels for a woman, yes, it's gonna be, I'll give her the sun, the rain, the moon, the stars, and the mountain. I'll give you the world and all that you wish for and even more. You're going to give her more than the world. But every man starts off that way. And even those men who are back living at home with their mothers after a divorce, those men who went from living in a mansion to living in a one-bedroom flat with rats and roaches, those men who lost half of what they have, even if they're not poor, they lost half of a fortune that they built based on their own skills, based on the things that they bring to the table. And if you are going to get married in a particular society, then you'll be a fool, especially if you're a man who's made yourself, put yourself together. Yes, man, you have to understand that you better have a prenuptial agreement, man. You got to have something to protect yourself. But the greatest protection you can have from divorce is just to not get legally married. The problem is the legal marriage. Yes, let a woman come. If you meet that woman, yes, build that relationship with her, build that life. But marriage is not a protector from your children growing up without you. It's too easy for a woman to file a divorce. Let's finish.
Because when you do your due diligence, you find out that the landscape is not as bleak and terrible as so many people online want to paint it out to be. And what you will also see is that so many experts predict that the divorce rate is going to continue to drop even more drastically, especially as the baby boomers go on to the next life. Unfortunately, we live in a society where negativity...
Now we're talking about predictions. You want a man to base his life on a prediction? Well, aren't those the same experts who came up with these stats? Who we gonna come on, bro? Let's be realistic.
These cells. And the negativity is so much louder than the positivity. You know why? Because the positive people are happy, quiet people. And what happens is, as online, so many people want to share their anecdotal worst case scenario stories to deter everyone away from what's going on. Let me tell you something. This is the year 2022. So much has happened in human history. There's 7.5 billion people on this planet, and it's still growing. There's enough worst case scenarios about any topic to deter you away from anything.
There are also enough best case scenarios to make you jump off the cliff and do anything. There's also enough of those. You can't come out here without any statistical data backing you and try to destroy statistical data that is available with your words, with your happy innuendos, man. You can't do that. Let's take a look at something here, man. Let's take a look at something. Let's look back at this. Now, I'm going to let him finish up, man. Let's go ahead and cover a couple things so I won't have to keep stopping him. Now, let's look at the divorce figures for women's marriage to divorce ratio by educational attainment. Again, this is the Bowling Green State University data from 2018. I think the most recent data now is, 2019. I don't think there might be some reputable data from 2020, but like I said, I like to do university studies. So let's look at this again. Okay, less than a high school diploma. Okay, we see that. Divorce rate is 16.4%, but the marriage rate is only 14.4%. That's the smallest group. High school diploma, 25.1. Marriage rate, 16.4 divorce rate. Some college, 33.9 marriage rate, 20.4 divorce rate. Now let's look at bachelor's degree. Bachelor's degree. Now these are women. Bachelor's degree, 54% marriage rate, 14.1% divorce rate, 2.8 marriages per every divorce. Let's go to master's plus, 58% marriage rate, only 12.5% divorce rate. 2.6 marriages for every divorce. But let's think about this. How many of us men who have built ourselves into the best version of ourselves and are continuing to do that process every day want a woman with a master's degree plus? Because remember now, those women never take the time to figure out femininity. Those women are out here competing in a dog-eat-dog world. They're out here competing with men They're out here competing and they achieve a level of success higher than some men. You know what type of masculine energy that takes? You know what type of shunning of femininity that takes? You have to absolutely shun your femininity in order to do that. You have to back away from femininity and become a beast of burden out here in this world. How many of us want to marry a woman like that? So 9 times out of 10, those women with master's degrees plus, and I know a bunch of them, they marry down. They marry a man who makes 30 or 40,000 a year. They marry a man who's a police officer. They marry a man who's a fireman. They marry a man who's a truck driver. They marry a man and not even a truck driver, even truck drivers who become owner operators, especially make enough money where they don't want that woman. Most men want femininity in a woman. So that's why those women they get with men who depend on them financially. So of course, the more money she makes, the more likely she is to stay married, because at that, you got to think about it. By the time a woman get a master's degree plus, she in her 30s. She's already out of the loop for young, successful men. Most young, successful men don't want a woman who's already in her 30s with no femininity. So her options are limited. So she's almost always going to have a man who caters to her, does everything she wants to do, treats her like the not the queen, but treats her like the king she thinks she is. And she's not going to divorce him because, hell, is she going to go down and do worse than him? No, she's going to settle into that divorce because she gets married so late. The average woman with a master's degree plus gets married older than 35 years. If she get married one time, she probably ain't finna get divorced. She's there. Because you know what? Because she's ready to settle down. At that point, she's done all the career stuff. She's burnt out on acting like a guy. Now she wants to settle down and become a wife and a mother and all of that. But she doesn't have the femininity to go along with that. So there's only a certain type of man she's going to have. And more likely than not, it's going to be a man who has to look at her financial attainment, her financial success as a benefit to him. That's just realistic, man. Y'all know I ain't making this up. I ain't making it up at all. Now, let's look at divorce rate by age group. Then we're going to get back into Hafiz, man. We're going to let him finish up and run through. I ain't going to interrupt him that much. Let's look at divorce rate by age group. Okay, 15 to 24, which we're just going to disregard that group because you shouldn't even be getting married 15 to 24. The marriage rate and divorce rate are the same almost. 23% marriage rate, 23.6% divorce rate, but there are 14.1 marriages for every divorce. That's because people at that age probably don't have a good upbringing. They probably have to just get together in order to even survive. They're from environments where there ain't nothing to do but interact physically. So there's probably a baby there. They're probably just looking at the best thing to do is get married. So bam, we're going to eliminate them. 25 to 34, that's an interesting group. They have a 75.3% marriage rate and a 23.4% divorce rate. That's phenomenal. They have a 4. But you see how far that marriage dropped? There are 4.5 marriages for every divorce. That group doesn't divorce. Now, let's remember, these marriages and divorces count for the same group. So that group who got married between 25 and 34, if they don't get divorced until they're 45 to 54, their marriage rate counts in the 25 to 34, but their divorce rate counts in the 45 to 54. So most people who get married between 25 and 34 stay married at least 10 years. So that automatically drops them over to 35 to 44. And their divorce rate, their marriage rate drops down. Most people aren't getting women. Now, these are women now, remember. Most women who get married between 25 and 34, every man I know who has been in a situation where he put a woman through school between the ages of 25 and 34. He wasn't putting no young woman through school who was fresh out of high school. He was putting a woman through school who was 25 to 34. And when she finished her school, built herself up, got her money right, did all that, within 10 years, she was gone. So when you look at that 10 years later, the divorce rate is 22.8, which is still low, but the marriage rate drops down to 45.9. As you keep going, 45 to 54, there's only 0.9 marriages. Now let's look back at that 35 to 44. There's only 1.3 marriages for every divorce. It's almost break even. It's almost break even. You know why? Because those women who got married at 25 to 34 are divorcing at 35 to 44. Think about it. The marriage rate, the divorce rate is the same. So those same women, of those 75.3%, some of those women didn't get divorced until they were 35 to 44, but they're not getting married. Let's go to 45 to 54. 0.9 marriages per every divorce. There's more divorce, slightly more divorce than marriage at that point. Now, when you think about it, that's the point. I know a lot of men who their woman end up divorcing them between those ages, 45 to 54. And a lot of those men, listen, a lot of those men are from that 75% in 25 to 34, stayed married for 20 years. Then the woman left. And we ain't gonna go no older than that. So when you think about it, man, yes, you have to take all of these statistics into consideration. But what this all boils down to is no matter what you look at, all of these things in totality equal a 50% divorce rate. A 50% divorce rate. And again, we'll look at if you marry a black woman, she's almost twice as likely to divorce you as any other one. These are statistics. I'm not making this up. You can't argue with this. These are statistics. So this doesn't benefit the black family a whole lot, man. Oh, my bad, man. I ain't even show y'all that, did I? God, dog. Well, I thought y'all were looking at that, man. My bad. I thought y'all were looking at that the whole time, man. I forgot to share it with y'all. My bad. My bad. So let's get back. Matter of fact, hold up. Let me share it with y'all, man. I ain't gonna read back over it, but I'm gonna share it with y'all just so y'all know I wasn't pulling stuff out of my butt. Okay, here's statistic for ethnicity. You see the divorce rate. Black women divorce their husband twice as much as white women, more than twice as much as others, which includes Asian Americans, and almost twice as much as Hispanic women. Like that whole argument about less single mothers. No, black women are divorcing their husband, becoming single mothers by choice. This is a choice. This is divorce. This is a woman going to a divorce lawyer saying, I don't want to be married anymore. So let's not put the onus of keeping the family together on black men. Let's stop this. Let's cut it out. Let's cut it out. And here's the other statistics. By education, you see that. By, I explained all that. And here's the one by age group. So let's come on out of here, man. I just wanted to show y'all that I wasn't gaslighting, man, and playing no games with y'all. So let's finish listening to this thing, man.
But my desire is that men should not live their life off of worst case scenarios. Men should not live their life in fear based upon any message that someone communicates online without looking at the whole picture of the good and the bad that life has to offer.
See, that fear stuff, that's the same thing, man. Nobody's afraid of the bad. We're using our brains saying, okay, marriage is not the best investment I can make. Especially, I'm going to build myself up to the best version of myself only to go and jump into a situation like that. That's not the best. That's not best case scenario. There is no best case scenario in that, man. There's no best case scenario in that. And the bottom line is we talk about what you could possibly have as far as women goes, but let's be honest. Even that's not what it used to be. Even that's not what it used to be. Let's finish.
So what I'm really hoping is that every single man watching this video rejects pessimistic nihilism. Reject it because it is a cancer to your soul. But I'm not saying embrace childish optimism, because that's also equally as foolish. But instead, what every man should embrace is positive realism, where you understand the good and the bad in life, but instead of focusing in on the bad all the time, you aspire for the good and you equip yourself with all the tools and the resources to desire and attain that good.
Man, listen, there ain't a whole lot of good in the concept of legal marriage in the United States. Let's be honest. There ain't a whole lot of good. It's a fantasy that there's a whole lot of good. Now, am I saying there's bad in having a woman? No, but legal marriage is a bad deal for a successful man. It is only beneficial to a man who is marrying, who ain't got no money, and who's marrying one of those women with those masters plus who making some money. Nobody else has that type of benefit, man. Let me catch these super chat right quick, man. Great vibes, appreciate the 5 bone. Told my dad, let me get some water right quick. Told my dad if I marry someone, she gonna be from a different country and a virgin. He told me, how can I do that when I'm not a virgin myself? But you know what? Nobody ever asks. I've had women ask me that, but nobody ever asks a woman, okay, well, how I'm provide for you when you can't provide for yourself? If I'm provide for you, then I'm provide for you the lifestyle you already live. You're not gonna share my lifestyle. Wherever you live now, I'm okay. If you my wife, I'll pay for that. So if you live with your parents, okay, I'll pay whatever you give your parents now. If you don't give them that, now I'll give them that. If you give them something, I'll give them that. You stay where you at. How I'm supposed to provide for you, you can't provide for yourself. You see what I'm saying? It's always that type of double standard when it comes to talking about. It has to be a double standard. In order to make legal marriage in the United States positive, you have to speak from a perspective of a double standard. Matter of fact, the worst kind of double standard. Brown 11975, appreciate the dub. Bring it out, Doc. Salute to you, Hornet. Hornet in the building, man. Salute to you. Let me see, man. I think I got a couple more. Tay Finley. Appreciate the dime, Tay. Appreciate it. Bim. Appreciate the 10 bone. Legal marriage is lose-lose proposition for men. I thought women get married for love. Why sign a legal doc then? Exactly. Women get married for love. Why sign a legal doc? The UK economist, appreciate the 5. Isn't he meant to be businessman too? But he clearly not great at the cost benefit analysis principle. Unless she's a virgin, the risk is high. Yeah, unless she's a virgin, the risk is high, man. Like, listen, if I was gonna take the risk, I would only take the risk with a virgin. That's it. I wouldn't take the risk with any other woman. I just wouldn't. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the type of risk that you're taking as a man, where the benefit has to be so high. And the only benefit that can be real high, if you know that you popping the top on that Aquafina for the first time. When you hear them little things go, them little things click when you pop that top, that's the only way. You know what I'm saying? You ain't gonna, if you see me drinking out of water bottle and I put it down, you ain't gonna drink it. I don't care. You got to be dying of thirst to drink it. So let's get back into this, man.
And the second reason why most conversations about marriage and divorce is misleading is because most general divorce statistics do not apply for specific individuals. Let me give you an example. The other day, I was having a conversation with an Asian man who only dates Asian women, by the way, about his thoughts about marriage and divorce. He told me he really wanted to get married, but he was so afraid because divorce rates were so high. I literally pulled it up online and showed it to him, and he saw with his own 2 eyes how Asian Americans have the lowest divorce rates compared to all ethnicities in America, with rates anywhere as low from 10 to 16%. He was shocked because he had no idea this was the case. And I explained to him, when most people are showing you the data, they share with you general numbers to confirm their worldview. But
now, I will say this. That may be true, but Asian Americans also represent the smallest group in all of these studies. Like, if you get white married couples, black married couples, Hispanic married couples, the numbers dwarf the total Asian population in America, the total Asian American population. So that's fine, and that's cool, and that's true. But what that got to do with you saying that black boys don't need to grow up without their father? What that Asian man marriage got to do with that? You just said the man only date Asian women, so they ain't got nothing to do with the black boys that you say don't need to live without their father, when black women are divorcing their husband at twice as much as Asian women. That has nothing to do with anything. Nothing. It's totally irrelevant to your original point. But when I get it, when you feel a certain way about certain things, then you have to champion those things. And if there are no facts to champion them based on, you have to champion them based on a whole bunch of, fantastical ideas and all of these things. Now, I hope that Hafiz has a successful marriage and 10 years down the line, he comes back and says, I told y'all marriage was good. I hope he does. I hope that somebody who's doing this doesn't end up taking the bag and giving it to the woman at the end. I hope it does. I want some married man to be able to come and say, man, this is the best decision I ever made. Then tell us how wonderful his wife is, how submissive she is, how she buys into the process of his progress, how he ain't got no complaints about the bro. That's what I want to hear. So I hope he's the one. I really do.
You have to factor into all the variables that make up statistics, especially when it comes to marriage and divorce. The divorce statistic and the divorce number is composed of so many extreme groups of people, right? You have Sally from West Virginia, who's 17 years old, who marries her cousin Billy Bob, and they got divorced in 3 months. She's part of the divorce numbers. But then you also have Sam in Arkansas, who only likes women younger than his youngest daughter, who's 67 years old, who's been divorced 6 times.
Man, you see how extreme that is, man? Man, those cases are rare, dude. How you going to take 10 or 15? Well, they affect the divorce rate. Come on, man. You gaslighting the brothers, man, trying to get them to make a decision that you made. And it's fine. If you want to get men to make a decision that you made, that's fine. But you cannot then turn around and say, when Greg says, no, you can't do this, or any other man says, no, don't do it. This is my experience. At least they're talking from their experience. You ain't even got enough experience to tell men they should do it. You ain't even gotten that positive to tell men about marriage, about your own marriage. Let's not talk about statistics. Let's not talk about who we follow. Let's not talk about the people around us. Let's talk about our own statistics. The best teacher in life is experience. And so you cannot listen to a man who has no experience in something telling you about it unless he has spent his life studying it from both sides. See, I've studied it from both sides because I've hoped to hear men say that marriage has been so great to them. I've been married 20 years. It's been so great. Boy, I know, man. I told y'all a while ago, man, I was fishing one time, man. It was just last year, last crappie season. I was fishing, and there was an old dude out there, man. He was a coach at one of these HBCUs, man. He was out there, man. And man, his wife called him, man. Man, we were out there talking fish, man. We were wearing them out there, man. We were just walking up and down the bank, wearing them out. Man, his wife called him, man. His whole demeanor changed. He just started talking. I said, man, how long y'all been married? He said, 10 years the first time, 8 years this time. I said, you married her again after the divorce? He said, yeah, we married, then we divorced, and we thought, we found our way back to each other, man, and blah, blah, blah. I said, nah, bro, she found her way back to you because you were her best option. Once a woman go out there and see that you were her best option, she'll try to find her way back to you. I'm telling you, man, I've had it happen all my life. Woman try to find her way back to me, talking about blah, 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 and how she blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I knew that back then. I don't care. It's your fault that you just find that out right now. I knew how wonderful I was back then. But you have to understand that without experience, you cannot teach if you're not teaching from experience. If you're not teaching from experience. Now, am I a man who's been legally married? No, but what I am is a man who's been in long-term situations with enough women to know that crossing that next line into marriage would not have been beneficial to me. Man, I've had several relationships that ended because I wouldn't cross over into marriage. I just wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it because it made no sense. Now, there were men around me who did it. Man, let me tell y'all something. I had a partner, man, one of my partners, man, man, he messed around and married a chick, got her pregnant, married her. You know why? Because he got this same type of pressure from his parents. Well, you done married her. Y'all need to be, you done got her pregnant. Y'all need to be married. Y'all need to be in this situation right here and do this. Listen, same thing he's saying. His family loved her. Her family loved him. They all got along. One big happy family, man. Everything was great. They had another child. Now, he's a dark-skinned brother. She's a brown-skinned. So the first child was a mix between the two. Second child came out light-skinned. He already knew, but he knew deep down inside, but he didn't accept it on the surface. Because sometimes I know children be born light. Most children are born light. They're born light, and then they darken as the oxygen starts to oxidize their skin. Their skin tone starts to come. And when you think about it, he eventually found out that it wasn't his child. This is his wife. That's not a one-off scenario. There are many men who have found out they're taking care of children that aren't theirs. They thought were theirs. There are many men who come to realize that their wife never stopped messing with her ex from the time they met and they married her anyway. There are many men who don't even know who their woman is for real. There are many men who are with a woman who's only with them for the short-term benefit until she can find something better. Men aren't making this up. I just gave you statistical data. You cannot dispute statistics. I broke the stats down. You cannot dispute the stats. They are realistic, man. Let's finish.
He's also part of those numbers. So when you understand these things and you look at yourself as an individual, you realize that these...
And let me say one more thing. Any low divorce rate you look at, those men who are absolutely miserably married, they are also included in those rates of people who stay married. So in every group that stays married, there's some men in that group who absolutely have terrible lives. They hate their life. They hate their wife. They hate everything about the scenario, but they stay in it. You know why? Because they feel stuck. And they know that divorce always benefits. See, here's the problem. On one side, we talk about marriage. But on the other side, we got to talk about divorce. And it isn't just the divorce statistics. It's the effects of divorce. It's the after effects of divorce and what the effects that divorce has on men. It's a terrible thing, man. It's not beneficial. The risk is too high. The reward is too low. And the bottom line is you can give everything you got. Do everything to make it successful. You can do enough to have a successful marriage. And the woman can just say no. If you're in business with a business partner, you jump in, you do enough to make it work. Even if they don't do enough, they're going to stay in there and ride your coattail at least. But if it fails, everybody loses. If you and your business partner go in business and the business fails, they don't win and you lose. You see what I'm saying? We got to keep this thing a buck, man. That's what we got to do. We got to be honest and open about these things, man. We have to. There's nothing wrong with men saying, wait a minute, I don't know about this marriage stuff now. I better take a look at this, man. The statistics are out there. And men aren't just sitting, oh, BOA says this. BOA says this statistic says. No. Men are, what this sounds like is questioning you men's intelligence. You can't question the intelligence of the online community. You can't say that they're just taking people's word and not looking up statistics. These people demand statistics. Because too many people are giving them. They demand statistics. So whereas some men read the statistics and come talk about them, everyone else shows the statistics. And I pulled up statistics from several different reputable sources here to show what this is. And marriage in America, legal marriage, is a bad deal for men. Those men who are in it and they stay in it, that don't mean they do it again. See, my question is, how many of you men would do it again if you could go back? And from what I hear, from the thousands of men I've spoken to, only one. And to be honest with you, I'm going to give him a few more years. Get to 20, 25 years. Let's get it.
General numbers don't apply to me, especially for the men of the standard. So let me give you an example. According to the CDC data, the leading cause of death of all men is heart disease with 24% of deaths. But if I'm an 18-year-old guy from Minnesota who plays college sports, does that number apply to me? No. When you look at the data for the leading cause of death for males under the age of 19, What you find is that the leading cause of death is not heart disease, it is unintentional injuries. And for guys under the age of 19, heart disease goes from first place in all men to sixth place in men of this age group. So what you see is depending on a myriad of variables determines which statistics and data is relevant to your life.
Man, that ain't got nothing to do with no damn marriage, man. What are we talking about? What men die from? That ain't got nothing to do with marriage. That's totally irrelevant. You can't juxtapose the statistics for what men die from against the likelihood of a woman divorcing you. What the woman got to do with the other one? When men die from now some of those men who die from heart disease, they die because they've been stressed out in a marriage. But when you look at these younger men who die from, man, what marriage and relationships got to do with that? See, there's too much gaslighting going on, man. The real issue is that there's too much gaslighting going on. And so when a man like Coach, or when CGA or any other man says that, hey, man, I've gone through this. This is not, hey, man, listen, I can tell you, but this is what happened. CGA doesn't just give you statistics. He breaks down the steps. He breaks down the avenues. He breaks down the road that went from to divorce court, to having to rebuild his life. And the bottom line is, you can't dispute that. You can't refute experience with lack of experience. Now, I understand. Hopefully, you are very happy when you marry a woman. Because if you marry a woman and you're already miserable, you know you made a mistake. So every man should feel this way. If he marries a woman, you should be happy. You should be ecstatic. You should be supporting it. You should be all about it. But you also have to make sure that these things are coming from your brain and not your emotions.
So when it comes to marriage, there's so much different data points and so many different factors that contribute to whether marriage will be successful or marriage will end in divorce. Factors like age, income level, religious values, social values, family background, whether you and that person is coming to a relationship with kids or not. All those things contribute to a marriage success rate. So, for example, if I'm a 20-year-old guy who's broke and lives with my mom, but I'm interested in marrying an 18-year-old girl who's a high school dropout, who's also a single mom, plus she's a fourth-wave feminist, and her mom has been divorced multiple times, then guess what?
Man, come on, man. Where you even come up with this scenario from, man? Anytime someone has to go to extreme examples, they don't have a leg to stand on. And I don't want any of you men to listen to extreme examples that you have never even heard of. I have never heard of a situation like that. Hafiz has never heard of a situation like that. CGA has never heard of a situation like that. None of you men ever heard of a situation like that. Because it's too much information for you to even have. And if you do know one, you know that, just one. You know one situation like that. Man, come on, man. Marriage is not a good deal for men in the United States. Legal marriage is a bad deal unless you need the woman's money to live the lifestyle that you want to live. If the woman is a financial upgrade for you, then yes, maybe it makes sense for you, especially if you can't see yourself in a career that is going to move you forward. Let's say you have a career that is pretty stifled, pretty leveled out, like a police officer. You're a police officer, you might make detective. You may make a little bit more money. So if you marry a woman who is making mid-six figures, yes, it is a great thing for you. But if you are a man who is already making mid-six figures, then her money doesn't matter to you at all. If you're a man who is making low six figures, her mid-six figures don't matter to you at all. Because when it comes to the way that women manage and maintain money and financial success, then her mid-six figures is probably going to leave her in a worse financial situation than your low six figures are. The bottom line is, it doesn't benefit men to legally marry a woman in the United States. It just doesn't. When we talk about the benefits, he hasn't said one benefit yet because there are no benefits. The benefit is it feels good. There are no, you know what a benefit is? A benefit is you getting something from a situation that you can't otherwise get. That's a benefit. We're not talking about positives. Oh, this is positive. Oh, I get to watch. I get to have somebody at home with me. I get somebody to rub my back whenever I need. We're talking about benefits. We're talking about when you look at your life, how does your life improve as a legally married man in the United States? If it's not financial, what other improvements are there? What other improvements are there if they aren't financial? None. Eddie Bly, appreciate the dub, man. Represent salute from the swamp of Florida, man. Representing the FLA. Represent the bottom, man. Salute to you. Appreciate you, man. Ambitious hustler. Hafiz is a joke. He hasn't even been alive long enough to be speaking about certain situations, bro. Real talk on fair though. Him speaking blasphemy and everyone's ears. Man, you know, but you got to think about it like this, man. A man has to speak his truth. And I get it. This is his truth. This is his truth. But this is not, he doesn't have enough facts in this situation. He doesn't have enough facts in this situation to be speaking these things about the positive effects and benefits of marriage, especially when your initial argument is that part of your initial argument is that we don't need any more single mothers, especially for young black boys, when the mothers of those boys who are married are divorcing their husband at twice the clip of everyone else. That's not even a straw man argument. That's not an argument at all. That's just a downright, that's falsifying the facts is what that is.
Duh, marriage may not be a good decision. Duh, the divorce rate is probably going to be high in that situation because all these variables are trending in the wrong direction. But if I'm a 30-year-old man who's financially stable, who comes from a good family, who is desiring to marry a 27-year-old woman, who also comes from a good family, who shares my similar life values and religious values, and really desires the same vision I have for life, then guess what? The divorce rate is so astronomically insignificant and so much lower than the first one. And when it comes to how the divorce rate is going to affect your life, it's statistically insignificant. You see, for the men of the standard, we are not consumed. We're not obsessed. We don't care about the data points that affect the average guy. Why? Because the men of the standard are not trying to be average. The men of the standard are not just trying to meet the standard. They're trying to set the standard.
Here's the thing about the standard. If your ass get legally married in the United States, the standard is you to put yourself in a position where you have given someone else power over your future, power over your present, power over your future financial independence. And it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. That's all that means, man. And legal marriage has nothing to do with any kind of man. The most alpha version of yourself, the men of standard, whatever man it is, select men, whatever man it is. Marriage has nothing to do with that. If you need marriage to make you any type of man, then you need to go back and regroup and rebuild yourself in other ways. The bottom line is this. I get it, man. If you meet a quality woman, then you need to see what it is what position you can put that woman in your life. But legal marriage is not that position. It's not that position. It's not that position.
You see, in reality, most guys in the standard are college graduates. And being college graduates drastically increase your odds of successful marriage. Most guys in the standard are financially stable. Increases your odds as well.
Come on, man. Come on. That is what increases your odds of some woman marrying you who doesn't really want you and divorcing you. The more financially successful you are, the greater risk there is in marriage. It is absolutely risky. Why would you build yourself up to the financial best version of yourself, put yourself in mid six-figure millionaire status, and then turn around and say, I'm going to make this decision where at the drop of a dime, this woman can say, I don't want to do this anymore. And you out of half of your goods. And sometimes more. depending on what residual payments you have to make. I'm telling you, I got a white business partner right now. He's on his second marriage. That's just what that's just what he wants to do. He's on his second marriage. First marriage, he ended up, man, having to pay this chick, man, $300,000 a month. A year. $300,000 a year. They had to pay this chick $300,000 a year. When they divorced, the kid was 10. He had to pay her $300,000 a year for 8 years. And in 2 years, the kid was living with him. So he had his son with him, and he was still paying that, bro, $300,000. Because there was no stipulation in the divorce where if the child lived with him, he was paying her that in alimony. $300,000 a year. Why? Because he was paid enough to do that. And this ain't nobody you know. This ain't nobody you know. This is an old country boy Mississippi guy. Country boy Mississippi, wear cowboy boots every day. Rich as a fool, drive a Ford F-250 truck. Still caught up in that situation. And that's just one example I can give you. I got a partner, black partner, Birmingham. His old lady divorced him. He had just bought a $500,000 house for the family. Guess who got the house? Guess who had to pay for the house? See, so all these statistics we talk about, the little broke dude who ain't got no money, nobody gives a damn about him. He ain't taking no risk. We talk about the men that build themselves to the best version of themselves. That's the man that's taking a risk. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Most guys have strong religious and social values that they want in their partner. Drastically increases the odds as well. So when it comes to data points that affect the general average individual, we do not care about it because it's not relevant for our lives. Because for all the men who desire to be great, we do not care about average. As I said from the beginning, there will always be risk in life. You can do everything the right way. You can dot all your I's and cross all your T's and still get a bad outcome. And trust me, I already know there's going to be some guy in the comments that said, well, I did everything the right way and everything went right and I still got divorced. And there's going to be someone doing a reaction video that I'm not going to watch who's going to say, well, he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know anything. Blah, blah. You not see what happened to all these guys? Trust me, there's enough worst case horror stories to fill up the entire universe 1,000-fold. And
well, why don't you show us some best case scenarios? Show us some of those best case scenarios. All of this stuff about how these men are successful, show us some best case scenarios. We see all the worst case scenarios. Where are the best case scenarios? Oh, the best case scenarios, they're quiet. I remember you said that earlier. Best case scenarios are quiet. They're quiet. They're enjoying life. Okay, fine. Let those guys stay quiet. Here's the problem with those guys who are quiet. If they don't come out and tell their experience, why the hell would a man just assume that they out there? When you have access to all these worst case scenarios, isn't it up to the men with the best case scenarios to let young men know that, hey, this is a best case scenario. This is a best case scenario. Here we are. Yeah, this is it. Best case scenario right here. Man, let me tell you something. This is how you make this thing work. This is how it works. Those men don't exist. And it's not because they're quiet. It's because they're so few in number. They're so few in number. And listen, the divorce rate is lower, but the marriage rate is also lower. And the marriage rate is going to continue to get lower, which means the divorce rate is going to continue to get lower because men are waking up and understanding that, yes, everything has a risk. You can't be risk adverse and attain any level of success in this life. But the problem with marriage is the risk is that the outcome is left in someone else's hands. Marriage is the only risk you can take where the outcome can absolutely be affected overnight by someone else just simply changing their mind. By someone else simply, who knows what happens? But we also know that 30% divorce rate is the highest amongst all women, almost double than all the rest of them. So there's a great portion of young boys growing up in single parent homes who used to live with their dad in a 2-family home. And that divorce was 80% likely to be defiled by the same mother who is his single mom. See, the reality of the scenario is this, man. You can take whatever risk you want to take in life. But the bottom line is this. You cannot expect any young man to see all this negative stuff, all these statistics, all this data that can be proven, some data that I just went over. You can't expect young men to see that and then turn around and say, but there's possibly some guys who are happy. A lot of them, they're just quiet. Man, that don't even make sense. That's not intellectual. That's not an intelligent thing to do. The same way there's proof to the negative, these men need proof to the positive. And unfortunately, you have to be married longer than a few months to speak on that. And fortunately, also, there are guys like CGA who are out here speaking that from that perspective. And the majority of men you hear talking about marriage from a positive perspective are not married, have not been married, or they have been married and divorced, and they're just spinsters out here selling dreams. Otherwise, there are men who don't have enough experience in marriage to speak on it. You don't hear me talk about marriage a whole lot. You don't. You hear me talk about it. You hear me talk about becoming the most alpha version of yourself. You hear me talking about developing a relationship with the Most High. You hear me talking about developing a relationship with the spirit man within you. You hear me talking about those things. You don't hear me talk a whole lot about, don't get married, because that's not my area of expertise. But that is CGA's area of expertise. Any man, listen, all it takes is 10,000 hours to make you an expert at something. CGA was married for longer than 10,000 hours. Now, there's got to be some men out there who can say, yeah, marriage is a great thing. Those men need to speak up. Otherwise, if a man come to me and say, hey, man, should I marry this woman? I'm going to ask him a whole bunch of questions. And I'm going to say, man, do you understand the ramification of legally marrying this woman? It's not about the woman leaving you. Men don't really care about a woman leaving, but why put yourself in a situation where you almost have to acquiesce to her demands? Because if she leaves, it's going to cost you so much. It doesn't make sense to do. Got a couple super chats here, man. Let me run these down, man. We're going to jump back into this thing. We got here. Chief Speed Media, man. Welcome to the family. Welcome to the Green Label Gang. Chief Stand Still, my brother. Appreciate the 10 bones. Bless her, bro. Dr. POA, them so-called happily married men ain't quiet, dude. Just speaking of a myth. That's why you can't prove it. Man, there is no proof of a bunch of happily married men. There just is no proof. You can't prove that. Steamroller. Appreciate the 5 bone. You bend the knee and put the loaded gun in their hand and they can leave at no fault for someone who is better to them. Legal marriage is a joke. Absolute joke. Absolute joke. And it's tough to, it's a hard sell to get a young man to look at his grandparents and say, you can have what your grandparents have. You're not going to meet a woman like your grandmother. Daniel's Honey, appreciate the 50 pounds, Shotty. Shotty put the king in the flames, man. Salute, I appreciate you. Steamrolling again, better deal to them. Man, absolute better deal. Absolute better deal. Again, Daniel's Honey, appreciate sponsorship of the show, Shotty. Now, when you really think about it, man, you got to keep in mind, brothers, that no matter what you do, you got to make the decision that's best for you. And you also have to accept the fact when something is over. And the thing about marriage, see, men still want to be the traditional husband, but the traditional wife has been gone since the 1970s. It's been gone. Of course, the divorce rate has been falling. It got up to 5.1. That is a hell of a high divorce rate. In 1981, 150,000 divorces took place. Yes, that is very high. But now it's still at 2. There's 2 marriages for every divorce. Back then, Back then, that was 5.1 divorces for every marriage. The divorce rate was it was absolutely high. But now what we're talking about is a very different perspective on relationships. Legal marriage, as drawn up traditionally, is done. Women don't even view the interaction that same way. So men have got to change their outlook and expectation. Women long ago changed their expectation of marriage. Men still try to stick to the same expectation. You can't have the expectation to be a provider and protector for a woman who has gone out there and built her life on being her own provider. You have to make an adjustment. And some men can. Some men can bow down to the 50-50 demands of a woman who has her own level of success. Others of us, we want what we want. That's why we're not married, because we gonna pay the cost to be the boss, and we want feminine submission. Men, I am telling you, in America, feminine submission is gone. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. It's gone. That's why men are traveling to other places, because men don't even know what submission and femininity feels like. They don't even know what it looks like. When you have women like Megan Thee Stallion, who is a great influence on young women, the same young women that these young men would eventually end up marrying, these same women, hey man, I can do what I want to do. You can't control the sexual dynamic on me. I can do what I want to do. I can live how I want to live. You can't hold that against me anymore. Man, listen, I'm just telling you, man, to use your brains to think. Use your brains to think. That's all I'm saying. Don't think with your feelings. BOA, I was happily married, but marriage is good financially, only if you know how to legally layer your protection. Nothing belongs to you. Hint, hint. Well, it's only good financially, man, if you ain't got no paper. Like I don't see how a man who's making his own paper on his own can take on the expense of marriage and say it's better financially. It's just not. It's gonna cost you more to just live. Everything you do is gonna be more expensive if you marry somebody. Because here's the thing, as a bachelor, you're not gonna marry a woman and stay in the same place. You're just not. You're not. Because if you marry a woman, then you got to think about family, you got to think about growth. So you're automatically going to upgrade everything. And if you pay the cost to be the boss, it's just automatically more expensive to you. Like for me, the financial benefit, I can't see the financial benefit if you already got some paper. You're playing with a little bit of paper. Cosmo Rain, appreciate the super sticker. Let's get back into this.
Trust me, I've had friends who've experienced some terrible situations as well. I'm not oblivious to it. But here is the fundamental reality. There are some men who look at risk, and instead of going forward, they are paralyzed by fear. And since they're paralyzed by fear, they're trying to eliminate all risk. And then there's some men who look at risk, and instead of leaning towards fear, they lean towards wisdom. And they take tools and resources and build themselves up to alleviate the risk and have the best outcomes possible.
That has nothing to do with the risk of marriage. The risk of marriage is the woman has control over the dynamic. In this society, the laws give her control over the dynamic. That has nothing to do with building yourself up to have a better outcome. Some of the richest men, professional athletes are they get whooped the worst. So there is no way you can build yourself up to make sure that that woman is going to keep you forever. That makes no sense, man. Nothing you do is going to be able to influence that woman to be with you forever. That's something that has to come from her internally. That has to be something that she does. You never know what her ultimate aspirations are going to be. When she hits that wall, everything changes for her physically, mentally, emotionally. You don't know what's going to happen. So you can't keep comparing business and building yourself up physically and all these other things to marriage, because building yourself to the best version of yourself, you can control almost all of that dynamic. Yes, there are going to be situations and circumstances that might affect you one way or the other, but you can control the energy, the effort, the dynamic. In a marriage, at the very least, there is 50 50-50 control over what happens tomorrow. There is no control over a woman divorcing you. No control. It just doesn't make sense. And so whenever you compare it to business or something else, you really show that marriage stands alone in the level of risk and the type of risk that you're going to take. There is nothing else that you're going to take that same level of risk, that same type of risk, and give someone else that much power and control over the outcome. It just doesn't make sense. In business, you're not going to be in a business and give somebody else that much control over the outcome, ungoverned control over the outcome. You're going to set that thing up to where if it's a corporation, if you're the chairman of the board and he's the president, the chairman and the president have the same power. And so there are certain things the president can't do without the chairman. There are certain things the chairman can't do without the president. In marriage, you leave the outcome to that woman to 100% control her aspect of the dynamic. There's nothing in the marriage law. There's nothing in any part of that says, okay, woman, the man tells you if you can stay or leave. And if she has her own money, she ain't even got to worry about the financial burden of staying with you because of the financial benefits. It doesn't make legal sense for a man to do it. It doesn't. In America, marriage is a rich man's dream and a poor man's scheme. I say again, in America, legal marriage is a rich man's dream and a poor man's scheme. That's the only way. And that's just the reality of it. No contest divorce destroyed marriage. Marriage was over after no contest divorce. It's done. You look at all of these professional athletes, look how no matter where they stay, their wives want a house in California. You know why? Because the off season is longer than the season. And so if they spend the off season in California, then that's where they reside. They reside there. So after a certain amount of years of residing there, you can divorce in California because you've been a resident there for a certain amount of time. Guess what? In California, you can divorce for irreconcilable differences. That's it. You don't need nothing else. Man ain't got to do that to you. You can just go say, well, we don't get along anymore. There's a disconnect. It makes no sense, man. It just makes no sense. I understand. Listen, as I stated before, this is not a knock on Hafiz. I don't even know Hafiz. I listened to him talk to Steph. I listened to him talk to AMS. That's it. And I listened to this video. And I'll say this. I get it, man. In our heart of hearts as men, we want the successful marriage. We want that to be the life. Man, we just hope and pray that one day we wake up and this whole fallout from marriage and this high divorce rate and all this, man, that we hope that this is just a myth, that we wake up and it's all been a dream. But it's not. It's real, man. And every man who gets married goes into the marriage saying that his marriage is not like the others. And I hope for your sake that yours is not. Not just Hafiz, any man who's taking that play, who's taking that plunge. If you're jumping off that cliff, I pray that there's a soft spot to land at the bottom for you. Because I don't want to see any man go through a divorce. Trust me, the worst thing that a man can go through to me, as far as relationship goes, is a divorce. And I don't want that for any man. Black man, white man, Hispanic man, Asian man. I don't want that for any man in any country, nowhere. If you have to deal with these types of things with your divorce laws, I don't want you to go through that. You see, the marriage laws aren't the problem. The marriage laws are pretty consistent, haven't changed much. The divorce laws have changed. And the divorce law has made something that was already a serious decision. It become an illogical decision in most scenarios. But I will say this. If you think you found the one, then maybe you should consider a position in your life, a permanent position in your life. But legal marriage is a damaging one. It just is. I'm not making that up, man. I wish it wasn't so. But legal marriage is a damaging one. It is absolutely a damaging one. Stan Howard, man, appreciate the dime. Marriage is a financial safety net for women in case they change their mind years down the line or return on their investment. Yo, y'all stay here, man. This show ain't over. We got some stuff that we're going to get into. Let's try to finish up Hafez, man. We're not going to listen to. Let's try to finish.
So my message to every single man and woman watching this video is the message I give to the men of the standard every single day. And it's in this question. If there is something good that someone on this planet is experiencing, why can't that person be you? If someone on this planet is having a great marriage and a great family, why can't that person be you? If somebody on this planet is financially stable and not worrying about paying their bills, why can't that person be you?
We can't keep juxtaposing this against finances. The thing is, most men don't know anyone who has that successful marriage, who's happily married. Most of us don't know happily married men unless they made compromises we wouldn't make. I know some happily married men who have a very unattractive wife. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't want no very unattractive wife. I mean, I deal with an upgradable 6, 7, but I don't want no very unattractive wife. But I know some men with very successful men with very unattractive wives, and they seem to be pretty happily married, but there's no intimacy involved in their marriage. So for a man like me or a man like most of you, a marriage with no intimacy, that just doesn't fly. So we don't know any men who are happily married. I'm talking about men who are getting what they want from a marriage. Most men don't know that. Let's finish up.
If somebody on this planet is physically fit and happy and healthy, why can't that person be you? You see, we're not concerned for the men who want to be great. We're not concerned how life affects the average person. We're not concerned about propaganda that people communicate to deter us from what is good, because we will always strive and desire what is good. If someone told me
Michael Jordan, greatest basketball player ever, divorced. Tiger Woods, arguably greatest golfer ever, divorced. I mean, the list goes on, man. So when we talk about greatness, let's go around and look at greatness. Think about greatness. Greatness does not deter a woman from divorcing you. It just doesn't. There are too many benefits for a woman to divorce you. So this has nothing to do with greatness, has nothing to do with only average men. He's basically saying only average men have to worry about getting divorced. If you're not average, if you're a great man, then you're immune from divorce. You're protected from divorce because you're great. Man, that's a fallacy.
60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Does that mean I gotta live paycheck to paycheck? No. Though that's true for those people, it's not gonna be true for my life. If someone said, well, 90% of business will eventually fail, so there's no point. Does that mean I shouldn't start a business? No, I should still pursue my dreams and what I believe is good for my life. If somebody says, well, only 10% of people earn $100,000 a year, does that mean I should just be like, screw it? Well, only 10% of people can achieve it. I will never be able to do so. No, I should still aspire, desire, and go after what is good in spite of what anybody says. You see, for the men of the standard, we want the best in life. We want the best physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, and even romantically, especially when it comes to marriage and family. And what's the best for most men, in my opinion, is to have a healthy family, to raise your children in your home. Most men don't want to be.
That is the healthiest thing. The problem is you can't control it. Those other things, yes, you can control those things. You can affect the amount of work you're willing to put in. You can affect the amount of effort you're willing to put in. You can affect the amount of education you get. You can affect the amount of time you put in your craft. You can't affect a woman divorcing you in a marriage. These things are no comparison. Business is business. Marriage is marriage. Two different things. Yes, we would love to all be married to a wonderful woman who is very supportive of everything we desire to do, who buys into the process of our progress. But in America, it's just not realistic, man. It's just not. It's just not. Somebody said LeBron is married. You got to think about it though, man. Savannah has been with LeBron pretty much his whole life. And LeBron is still the man. When you think about it, LeBron is, I mean, we're talking about LeBron. He's the best player ever, and his children are still young. He still got young kids. Jordan stayed married. Jordan stayed married until his kids got grown. Now, I will say this. Divorcing was Jordan's plan. Like, Jordan wanted to divorce because Jordan had bigger ideals for his life. But when you think about it, to say that, well, any of us can be a billionaire and owner and be the majority owner of a professional sports team, no, the majority of us can't do that. Any of us can't do that. So when we look at those extremes, of course, those are extremes, but we're talking about greatness. We're talking about greatness. So the bottom line is, when it really boils down, when you think about the success that even those men, you look at how much wealthier those men are than their wives. You look at how much wealthier Kobe was than his wife. Kobe, he met his wife in high school. LeBron, he met his wife in school. Like, they've been together forever. Like, he's been knowing her since forever. But still, the end is not here. You got to think about it. People marry forever. If you marry a woman and 20 years later she divorced you at the peak of your finances, at the peak of that is still, whenever divorce happens, it negates all the benefit of that marriage. Especially when you're not prepared for it. If you're a man and you're prepared for the divorce, that's different. Man, you see how much divorce cost Tiger Woods? Tiger Woods worth $700 million, man. Divorce cost him $350 million. I don't give a damn what I do. I'm not finna get no woman. Listen, even if you got 100,000, you want to give a woman 50? No. Now, Tiger Woods did do some things. Tiger Woods got caught out there bad. But there are men who didn't get caught out there bad. There are men where the woman got caught out there bad and still divorced the man and still got the money. I guess what I'm saying is this, man. If marriage had more benefits, then it could kind of balance it out. It just doesn't have as many benefits. It just doesn't have as many benefits. You see what I'm saying? It just doesn't have as many benefits as a successful business. The risk you take in business, the payoff is much greater than you could ever get from a woman. Let's just be realistic. Now, unless she's contributing to that, but we're talking about men who build themselves into successes, then go get married. There is no benefit for that man. Only benefit for that man is living the dream that ends in a nightmare for so many men. I wish it wasn't this way. You know what I'm saying? I really wish that we could come out and marry a woman, man, and it just be, and it goes the way that it's supposed to go, man. I really wish we could, but we just don't see enough evidence of that. And so when men start showing evidence of that, I'll be honest with you. If men start showing evidence of that in the United States, I will start pushing that type of content. If men start showing that they are successful and they married a woman and they've been married 10, 15, 20 years and they love every minute of it, I'll start doing that type of content. I ain't saying that's all I'll do, but I'll start incorporating that type of content into what I do. I just never see it. Out of all the content I get sent, I never get sent content of a man that's been married long term and loves it. I never do. Because it just isn't out there in large enough amounts for anybody to care about. Now, everybody show everything online. Everybody show everything online. You can't tell me that if those men were out there, they ain't showing themselves with them wives online. Yeah, there are some men who talk about it, but those men didn't have success until they met the woman. They built success with the woman as a foundation of it. That's different. I'm talking about a man who becomes his own success story, then goes off and marry a woman. It just doesn't make sense in America, especially if the goal is to keep young black boys from living in homes without their father. The statistics have shown that. So Lexio 2, appreciate the dub. He's saying that men of standard or great men don't concern with what average men go through as an idiotic fallacy. High value men get divorced all the time. We keep juxtaposing business mindset to power dynamics in a legal marriage. It's not the same, man. Now, I'll tell you what, if you're going to look at marriage like business, you got to look at the woman as the CEO of that business. So if we're going to look at marriage like business, then it's her business. Once you say I do, it becomes her business. Marriage is hers. That's why she get the big bling on the ring. Marriage is hers. That's why she planned the wedding. Marriage is hers. That's why here comes the bride. That's why you stand down at the end of that aisle. Everybody seeing you. You just the dude. She get to walk down the aisle with all the music because she is the boss of that business. And if you're a man in this society who has built yourself up to the best version of yourself, it don't make sense for you to be a business and enter into somebody else's business as a worker. How you gonna be a boss and become a worker for a woman in a legal marriage? It don't make sense. It don't make sense, man. William Warfield, appreciate the 5-bone prenuptial, dude. Why don't you just say you won't get married? You're not married or can speak about it. All I hear is fear. Winners, not losers. Fear of what? Fear of the joy of my life? You crazy, dude. Now let's look at that. Let's look at that. All you hear is fear. What fear? I want you now. You send me another super chat and tell me the benefit of marriage. Tell me the benefit of marriage. If you're married, tell me the benefit of marriage. If you married and you got your own money, not that you came up off your woman, tell me what's the win in marriage. Now, see, these type of dudes right here, man, he needs to convince himself that the move he made to marriage is a win. But I bet he can't give me one thing that represents a win in marriage. Tell me the one thing. Just tell me the one thing. Because I can give you 100, 1,000 examples. Some you know, some you don't know. Where men don't win in marriage. Any man who thinks marriage is a win is an idiot. That's just the thing. Like, unless you get a financial benefit that changes your life because you didn't have any money, what's the win? Tell me what's the win. I would love to hear the win. Let's get back into this.
Be a baby daddy. Most men don't want to be 45 years old and juggling plates and all other kinds of nonsense communicated online. Most men want to leave a legacy, raise their legacy, and see their legacy go on to the next generation. So if you are a man who's on this purpose.
Now, yes, most men want to do that, but divorce rates say that's about 50% likely not to happen.
Who's financially stable, who's emotionally healthy, as well as physically fit, and you're progressing, becoming more proficient, and a great woman comes alongside your life who desires to be with you and comes from a great family and respects you and shares your vision for life, who am I to tell you not to get married? If you're reading your word every single day and you read in Proverbs how God said, he who finds a wife finds a good thing, who am I to say that that's bad? You see, all these reasons and so many more are why I decided to get married. First, my parents have been married for the past 30 years and have an amazing relationship. Almost all of my mentors are married and have amazing families. Almost all of my favorite rock stars online, all the people I'm always quoting, are married and have healthy and happy families. So I see that as a beautiful and a great thing. And while I was on my purpose, while I was becoming financially stable, while I was growing spiritually, emotionally, and physically, I met a woman alongside the way.
Now, man, listen, I tell you men all the time, give a woman what she deserves. If you think you have that woman, give her what she deserves. If she's earned that, if you think she deserves that, you have to be a man enough to give a woman what you think she deserves. But you can't cross the line into putting yourself in a foolish position because of that. You can't. And here's the thing. If you already being intimate with a woman, she's already given herself to you as your wife. That's what that consecrates. She's already given herself. She's already said, okay, I'm your wife. She's already given herself to you. Now, some women give themselves to a bunch of men. But if you're in a relationship with a woman, you're already being intimate with her, then that's just something you're doing for the woman. So she can, feel better about it, or so she can not, feel like she's just out there sleeping around. It gives her stability. Where's your stability? What's your benefit? If you've already built yourself up in all of these ways, what's the benefit that you get from the marriage? And a lot of these athletes, you see them, man, when they get out of the league, it doesn't take long. It doesn't take long. before the woman says, okay, no, this ain't what I was planning on. She used to you being gone. She ain't used to you sitting around. She ain't used to waiting on you hand and foot. So you got to think about it, man. When you really think about the benefit of it, the only real benefit you get from legal marriage is making a woman feel better, making a woman happy. Happy life, happy wife, happy life. Man, that starts from the beginning. That starts from the day you say I do. Happy wife, happy life. And that's the mantra that you must live by. And I'm just going to be honest with you. What man who has built himself into the best version of himself wants to suddenly wake up one day and say, okay, now my focus is happy wife, happy life? Because there are no guarantees for any of these things you want. True, there are no guarantees in anything. But why put yourself in a situation with something where somebody can wake up one day and just destroy all of your dreams in that scenario? That's the reason that we become financially free, that we become financially independent. So we can't wake up one day and somebody says, okay, well, we're doing layoffs today. That's the reason. That's the reason why we have multiple streams of income. So one stream of income can't sink us. So why are you going to put yourself in a situation where in a business where the woman is in full control of what happens? There are too many examples of men, high-powered men, high-value men, the men who were at least financial alphas, men who were respected, men who had put themselves in the best situation to win and still ended up having men who are greater than at what they did than any of us are at what we do so far. Men who are respected by their peers as being the greatest at what they've done. Still end up in that. And then when we see men who appear to be happily married, we see examples of men like Steve Harvey. Man, we don't want that. We don't want that. So what we need to start seeing is examples of men who are in these highly successful marriages. We need to start seeing those examples. Those examples will change a lot of men's minds. And right now, we just don't see those examples. Joe Jones, one thing is maybe you raise kids in your home and maybe she will hold your hand when you die. Man, I'm gonna be honest with you. When you dying, man, I don't know if somebody holding your hand gonna really benefit you a whole lot. And I don't know if you really wanted to be hurt. But that's, when you think about things like that, yeah, maybe you raise kids in your home, but even raising kids in your home, when you really think about it, are you going to raise them or is she going to raise them? Stanley Howard, tell me what wins successful man get in marriage that he didn't get without marriage. That's my point, man. All this talk about the successes that come and the benefits and all of that, I don't see it. So we'll finish this up.
Who desired me and respected me, who came from an amazing family, who, when I introduced her to my family, they loved her. And when I met her family, they loved me. When I told my friends to vet her, they said she's the example. I will say one more time for all the negative people that want to complain. There will always be risk in life. But I'm telling you, as a man, you should not live your life in fear.
Man, listen, because you look at something and say it's not worth the risk, that's not fear. That's just looking at something saying, man, that ain't for me right there. The benefit, when I do the benefit risk analysis, the benefits don't even match up to the risk. The risk greatly outweigh the benefits. That's the problem. You see, shaming language is a tactic that's used from a perspective of emotion. You get emotional and you get angry because someone says someone feels a certain way about something that really has nothing to do with you, but you feel a certain way about it. That's when the shaming language comes out. You're afraid. You're afraid of marriage. The guy said you're afraid to call approach. No, the benefit is not worth the action or the risk. It's just not worth it. It's not worth it. You can't tell me any positives about the prospect of marriage that are going to make me say it's worth it. It's not worth it, man. What are the costs of marriage? One of the costs of marriage is freedom. Here's the thing, man. It ain't about being with a whole bunch of other women. You're talking to a man who abstains 6 months out of every year. So I'm not controlled by my wood. I'm not a freak for pleasure or anything like that. But the freedom of peace of mind and quiet. I don't want to be responsible for someone else's joy and happiness on a daily basis. And I don't want that for me. If you want that, fine, do it. But if you're gonna tell me, okay, get married because it's a wonderful thing, you can do this, you could do that. Here's what I'm doing, but don't look at statistics and try to refute the statistics that are out there, man, and tell me don't worry about the statistics, don't listen to that. You should still do it. No, man, you got to give men something more practical than the statistics. Don't make sense. Give them some examples. If you know all of these people and you have all of these mentors, give them some examples. Show us some examples. All right, man. Let's wrap this on up.
Based upon risk, especially exaggerated risk that you read about from negative people online. Instead, pursue what is good. Instead, pursue what's best. Do not be trapped by pessimistic nihilism. And obviously reject childish optimism. But instead, embrace positive realism. Realize the good and the bad and the ugly, all types of things that are going on in life, but strive for the good. And never forget the question. Never forget it. And if you're going to take anything away from today's video, please take this. If there's someone in life that's experiencing the best that life has to offer, why not me? Men, women, that's all I want for you guys. That's why I got married, and I pray to God that you guys can have the best that life has to offer. And the easiest way to deter you from that is by believing so much of the lies and the negativity that's being projected on social media and the internet.
Now, when you really think about it, man, no statistical data, no evidence, no examples, no nothing. Just a whole bunch of words. And that's the worst kind of rhetoric for young men to follow. Because if you look at what your parents did, like you can't base your life on your parents' life. Times were different. Like people still be basing that, I want what my grandmama had. I want my great-grandmama and great-granddaddy had. Boy, your great-grandmama and great-granddad, man, they were together before the Divorce Reform Act of 1969. What we have to understand, man, is that things just aren't what they used to be. Hafiz Kingdom, my brother, salute, appreciate the dub, salute to my bro, Dr. BOA, it's the mob. If you already been married for years and you have some game, cool. Unless you're married to Beyonce, I give you a C+. It's a business. Your parents come from a different time. Accept that. That's real talk, man. Your parents come from a different time. It's hard to replicate what your parents have unless you know that the dynamic between you and your woman is the same. You got to go back. If your mom was educated and getting money, your dad was educated and getting money, that's the only way to juxtapose you being educated and getting money and your woman being educated and getting money. Education changes your outlook on what you can demand or what you should give in a marriage. It just does. Money does that as well. Wouldn't you like to know? Appreciate the 5 bones. Since he wants to compare business to marriage, does he think CEOs who don't go through with a deal is based on fear or what's best for the company? Yeah, man. Man, that whole fear thing, man. That's why I try to slide on that on calling men afraid and all that, man. Because just because a man don't do what you do, that don't mean he afraid, man. Like I don't say, oh man, you're running to get married because you're afraid to be single. You're afraid you're gonna be alone. I don't say that. Hafiz Kingdom again, man. Appreciate the 5 bone. Y'all only get married for peer pressure. Let's be real. You're soft. You just want to make her happy. Let's keep it 100. Man, I think a lot of it is that, man, because if you already with a woman, man, I feel like this. If you're already getting the milk for free, why you going to buy the cow? All right, man, let's take a look at this. Y'all going to like this, man.
Steps forward if both of your parents are still married. Let's take 2 steps forward if you grew up with a father figure in the home. Take 2 steps forward if you had access to a private education. Take 2 steps forward if you had access to a free tutor growing up. Take 2 steps forward if you've never had to worry about your cell phone being shut off. Take 2 steps forward if you've never had to help mom or dad with the bills. Take 2 steps forward if it wasn't because of your athletic ability, you don't have to pay for college. Take 2 steps forward if you never wondered where your next meal was going to come from?
Now, I want y'all to look at the discrepancy there. This is his girl. Look at the discrepancy. Could be his wife. Look at the discrepancy there. See, like those questions are questions that most men don't even ask. How was your life growing up? Did you ever have to worry about, did you ever have to worry about your cell phone bill not being paid? Did you ever worry about where your next meal was coming from? See, what men don't understand is you have to know a woman's scars. You ain't worrying about her, you worrying too much about her education. Well, let's see, in part of the education, did she have to sleep with somebody to get ahead? Let's see in a part of the education, did she have to deal with somebody standing in her way trying to keep her down for no apparent reason? Did she have to deal with that? You got to know a woman's scars, man. But you can't just know the positive of a woman. You got to know her scars, because nothing shapes you and causes you to be detrimental to someone else's life like your scars do. And you have to know if she's overcome those scars or not. And the reality of the scenario is the statistics do not lie. And you have to go back before 2022. There are no statistics for 2022 on anything. You know, statistics on 2022, how many fireworks got popped on, how many fireworks got bought for New Year's, how much Valentine's stuff got bought for Valentine's Day. Those are the only things that have taken place so far for New Year. New Year's, man, you can't even tell how many people are going to travel on spring break yet. See what I'm saying? So we're talking about statistics that have already been established. And I get it, man. Let me tell you something. I will applaud Hafiz for standing on the decision he made and coming out strong on behalf of marriage. Because if you're going to make that move in 2022, man, you had better be ready to stand on it, because the majority of men just don't think it's a wise decision. So if you make it because you stand on it, you believe it, and you go into it like every man who's ever been divorced before. My marriage is going to be different. Me and my wife are going to make it. Every man said that. And I hope for his sake that he is one of those men who come back in 10, 15, 20 years and say, man, I told y'all this was the thing to do. All y'all who didn't do it, man, y'all some suckers. I'll take that. If he could come back and say that, man, 10, 15 years, I'd be like, man, you right, dog. I'm a sucker. I ain't gonna even lie to you, man. Cool. But for me, I just don't want it. And if you don't want it, if your reasons are the statistics, if your reason are the statistics are real enough that you don't want to take the risk, man, don't let nobody call you afraid because you're doing what's best for your life. Whether it's doing something or not, never let nobody drive you by car. You afraid to do it? Man, that's like peer pressure. That's like childish peer pressure. Man, I bet you won't. Y'all remember the movie The Wood, one of my favorite movies. When Mike first got out to school, man, first got out to the South Central, and he went and grabbed Alicia's butt, and she turned around and socked him. Then her brother Stacey came with that and beat him up. That's peer pressure. You're afraid. You're afraid to do it. You're living in fear. No, man, live in wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. It's not fear to be wise enough not to do something dumb. It's not fear. It's not fear at all. I guarantee you there are more men alive who wish somebody had told them about these statistics and said, man, you need to think twice before you make that move. Make sure marrying that woman is what you want to do. Then there are men who said, man, I should have went on and got married when I was in my 30s, man. Oh, man, I got all this money. I got all this success. Boy, my life is over because I ain't got no old lady. I guarantee you there are more men saying, man, they wish somebody had told them not to do it than there are men saying they wish somebody had told them to do it. I can guarantee you that. So let's be realistic, man. Check out a couple more things.
This is the craziest divorce of all time, and people can't decide who to support in this case. Back in 1994, Gabriel met Christina at a party, and they really hit it off. They ended up getting married even though she was 30 years younger than him. They were happily married for 20 years, but then Christina decided that she wanted to get a divorce. But when she went to her lawyer, she was shocked to hear that she was already divorced from Gabriel 20 years ago. And this is because 4 months after their marriage, the couple went to the Dominican Republic for a vacation. And Gabriel divorced her there because that's the only country where one party can file for a divorce without informing the other party. And he says he did this because he knew one day Christina would divorce him and try to take all his money.
Hey, boy, how cold is that? How cold is that, man? That's top notch. Applaud that man right there, man. Let's applaud that man right there. Because you knew what? He says he knew one day Christina would divorce him and try to take his money. Damn near every man can say that. Eventually, she's probably going to divorce you. The divorce statistics don't lie unless you're Asian. You know what I'm saying? If you are a black man in America, if you marry, the chances are twice as high that the woman who looks like you is going to divorce you than the woman who look like those other men is going to divorce them. Black woman is twice as likely to divorce you as a white woman is to divorce a white man. Almost twice as much as a Hispanic woman is to divorce a Hispanic man. And more than twice as much than an Asian woman is to divorce an Asian man. That's just a fact. I'm not making that up. That's a fact of the matter, man. I mean, I am not making this up. Y'all know I ain't making this up. This is a fact, man. And I know, man, I know we wish it wasn't this way, but man, it is. Aside, appreciate the super sticker, man. Appreciate the super sticker from Aside. Also, Douglas Somerville, appreciate the dime. My brother Alfie came back, man. Appreciate the dime fee. Agreeing to be a husband is like agreeing to be your wife's girlfriend. Team International King. Your wife will give me the same benefits without the headache and spending the money. Have fun. Man, you know what, man? And it's crazy out here, man, that guys just, I get it, man. I get it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, look, Gucci is another one. Gucci has an amazing marriage, man. Gucci and his wife seem very happy together. But Gucci had to make some compromises. His wife already had children. And his wife proved herself in a way that most men wives don't. And I don't think it had any. If a woman, even if a woman has children, let's just eliminate that. When you give a woman some money, millions of dollars, and you go to prison and you come back and that woman done flipped your money from 2 to reportedly 6 million, man, let me tell you something. If a woman paid me $4 million, man, I will marry her legally if she paid me $4 million. She pretty much paid Gucci $4 million. Because technically speaking, all she had to do was give him his $2 million back. Think about that. Literally, all she had to do to show loyalty is that she held his $2 million. She flipped it. And when he came out, she gave him back double or triple his money. Come on, man. With that kind of proof out there, why would you settle for no proof? Why would you settle for more proof? For no proof? Let me tell you something, bro. Man, you got to understand that at some point, you gotta let a woman prove herself, man. And if she ain't proving herself, man, then I don't get it. And so there's ways that a woman can prove her value, man. And it ain't just because she come from a good damn background or a good family, any of that. That really ain't got nothing to do with you. Her family upbringing does not benefit you as a man. Yes, does it help shape the type of woman she is? Yes, it helps shape the type of single woman she is. You don't know what kind of wife she's gonna be. Too many variables, man. Too many variables. And so a woman had to prove herself. If a woman proves herself worthy of it, man, yeah, I put in a position. Listen, let me leave a woman $2 million, man. She flip it to 6 while I'm gone. Hey, man. Sound like she got some quality of Proverb 31 woman to me, boy. And you can do enough dirt in life, man. You can do enough dirt and be enough of a dirt dauber and throw away enough blessings where at some point you gotta understand that you've thrown away enough blessings where you don't deserve a virgin anymore. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's one of the major things that we have to consider and keep in mind. All right, we got one more little part here, man. Then we're going to bounce.
I know exactly what I want. I don't want a 9-to-5 guy, and I know that isn't for me. And forgive me if I just want the finer things in life.
The finer things in life? So
Yes.
You're saying that a regular guy cannot give you the finer things in life. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying that. Please don't mistake that for a 9-to-5 guy can't give me the finer things in life, and I'm not shallow. So please don't receive that or take that in. But it's just that I know exactly what I want and what I bring to the table. And I know that I'm bigger than the scheduled 9-to-5 guy, man. So
Okay.
I want to be.
But bigger than in what way? What does bigger than mean? She look pretty small to me. Bigger in what way? I ain't getting no money, but bigger in what way? She's above him? Okay.
Able to take vacations when I want with you, and you're not able to do that. Or I'm able to, buy different things. And I don't want to be perceived as materialistic, but
She don't want to be.
I told my wife when I got with her, I said, look, I'll do anything for you, except one thing. I will not give up on that dream. If I got to surrender my dream, I'd rather be alone. Because if I abandon my dream, I'll abandon you. I truly believe that. I see so many people, man, they give up their dream for the wife. They give up their dream for the husband. They give up their, and then the wife and the husband get together and they have kids and then they give up their dream again because of the kids. And I said, the day we have kids, we cannot blame the kids for not going after our potential and our dreams. If I got to be less than who I'm meant to be with you, can't give you that.
All right, brothers, let's get ready to head on out of here, man. I appreciate everybody being in the joint. It's been super real in the field, man. Salute to the atmosphere.
Seems like no matter what you do sometimes,
Bless up to the GLG.
your efforts go underappreciated or unappreciated, period.
Peace.
You know, all we do, man, is try to give men the information they need to become the best version of themselves. No hate. We love women. We don't hate them. We just don't take no foolishness. And we can't be controlled by our lust. Those men can, but not us.
Alphas up, haters down, it's the motto. Simps claiming that they pimps, but they not though. Alphas up, haters down, it's the motto. Suckers claiming to be players, but they not though. Alphas up, haters down, it's the motto. Tricks acting like they max, but they not though. Alphas up, haters down, it's the motto. Betas claiming to be alpha, but they not though.
Now, I'm not gonna tell you, man, that you shouldn't value your woman at all. A woman does have value, but you can't overvalue her and convince yourself that she brings more value to your life than you bring to hers. You know, just the protection and provision is more than a woman can ever make up for, man. So I'm not saying don't give her props for what she does, but damn sure never make her feel like she's more important to you than you are to her, because it's just a figment of your imagination. She knows the truth, so you have to understand the truth as well. This is called the abundance mindset. There's nothing she can give you that you can't give yourself, besides a baby. And do you really want one of those right now? Nope.
Alphas up, betas down, it's the motto. Simps claiming that they pimps, but they not though. Alphas up, betas down, it's the motto. Suckers claiming to be players, but they not though. Alphas up, betas down, it's the motto. Tricks acting like they max, but they not though. Alphas up, betas down, it's the motto. Betas claiming to be alpha, but they not though.
You see, the main thing that men let women slide with is shut-uppiness and obedience. Now, when you use the term obedience with a woman, she automatically relates that to being a slave. But slaves aren't obedient. Obedience is a choice. Slaves either do it or die. Shut-uppiness is another thing that women have a problem with. It doesn't mean you can't talk. It means that you can't talk when I'm talking. It means that when we're talking about things that I do as the man, you don't have an opinion on those things, because I make decisions based on facts, not opinions, not even my own opinions, and most certainly not yours.
Alphas up, betas down, it's the motto. Simps claiming that they pimps, but they not though. Alphas up, betas down, it's the motto. Suckers claiming